Things weren't so bad at the beginning. They were pretty solid starting off. But then the usual thing happened. Welcome to A Runner Does Music. A couple things before we start off this video. This new look here for the videos is temporary until I find a new chair, because I don't have a chair right now for my room. So I'm just sitting on my fucking bed. Get a load of this guy. And for two, if I look sweaty, it's because it is hot as balls in my room. My room literally faces like where the sun is, so it's always warm as shit in here. I'm probably shining from sweat. Don't worry about it. Let's get into the actual video today. Today we're going to be looking at another commission from the bestie, Eduardo, otherwise known as Avenging Modern 4, who you can check out right here on Twitch. Go give him a follow. Lovely guy. He's having me do the first album from the American band Five Finger Death Punch called The Way of the Fist. And before you dismiss things immediately, as I nearly did as well, this is a lot different from their borderline offensive music that they put out nowadays. Before the big labels, mainstream tendencies, whatever the fuck was going on in the past couple years during COVID, Five Finger Death Punch put out music that was honestly a little closer to straight up metal, that towed the line between their typical tendencies that they would grow into and just the normal tendencies of the genre, and creating a more unique sound for the band, especially back at that time vocally. Let's talk about the album that still makes a strong case for their best complete work even this far into their career. The first couple of tracks lay out what the entire album will be built upon, but with a strong effect and an even stronger standing for why their brand of metal works so well. Even now in their modern context, of course less so now, way better back then. The band characterizes itself by supporting the gritty and grating vocals, such as on the album's title track, with equally aggressive instrumentation that manages to capture both sides of the late 2000s metal soundscape. Some rough indie edge, and some polished, almost big label production. We're still missing the production expertise of someone like Kevin Shurko, who comes in later in the band's lifetime to give some brand new life to their music, but there's a certain amount of attention paid to this album's overall combinations of sounds and how they work together that make it feel like a bigger deal than what it is. The only song I can think of without this level of production quality is the decidedly punchy A Place to Die, which sits in its own realm of power from start to finish, and can afford sacrificing so-called musical quality to be a song that just punches you in the face and keeps going. Gives you a five-finger death punch. Hey-o! Finishing up talking about polish, these two songs hit right in a row that give a clear glimpse into the future for the band with a clear path ahead. And that's Death Before Dishonor and Meet the Monster. What was, at the time of this album's release, a good song structure has now become the copy and paste formula for their modern albums, for better or for worse now, but like I said, for now, it's a very good reason. These songs follow clear steps and take them because it works for the type of metal that the band produces, the middle ground between heavy and radio friendly. You could say this even carries into a third song with Never Enough, but the divide between this song and the other two is that Never Enough starts a two-song stretch of songs that just sit at either average or below average. And as much as I try to keep the commissions and album requests to a more positive light, the ending of this album is underwhelming in the worst kind of way. It settles for the safest elements of an already risk-free formula that they've looked to for the entirety of the album thus far, even with, like I said, punchier things like A Place to Die. And they double down on the negative aspects with the final track, an acoustic version of the song's most popular song, The Bleeding. I already hate when you try to make an album bigger just by putting an acoustic version or a different version of a song later on that just adds nothing to it. In my opinion, the acoustic song as an art is kind of lost in these big words here, but modern context. You do acoustic versions, acoustic albums are even fantastic, but just shoving in there, it feels kind of hollow. The Bleeding is actually my personal favorite song from the band's entire discography, but it has some things about it that just can't be ignored. Primarily the straight up copy and paste guitar from Breaking Benjamin's song from their biggest album, So Cold. At that point in the album, you come to realize that it's an album broken in up to 3 parts, with the first 3 tracks being a good introduction to the band, some promising pieces of the puzzle and surprises if you're fresh or going back in time as a current listener. Then the second part comes in with tracks 4 through 8. This part of the album has quick glimpses into the complacency and plainer elements of the band's album formula, but you still get some decent hits like A Place to Die. Then finally, the last 5 songs completely derail any momentum the band had up until this point, with mediocre hard rock sweeping into the overall heavy metal sound you've gotten used to at this point thus far. You're left with more disappointment than anything else. I usually try to just keep the discussion on an album from the past primarily within the context of the time at which it came out, but this is a rare chance where I feel like discussing how the band moved forward from a project exemplifies this initial album. Five Finger Death Punch, even as far back as this album, thrives on simple song structures and an overall album formula that keeps things perfectly, again, towing the line. This is something that repeats on all of their albums post-2010, especially with the last couple of albums such as F8 and the always unforgettable Got Your Six. What drives me insane is that there are plenty of good elements, to look at with this band and on this album, but negatives outweigh what could be shining moments. The drumming in particular is a highlight, with Jeremy Spencer putting down some at times heavy as fuck contributions, but while he's out and shining heavily, elements such as the bass from Matt Snell is completely overshadowed by everyone else. From being able to actually hear it, which, spoiler alert, you can't, to even having any interesting lines, which again, it doesn't. I struggled to look for tabs, to listen to these songs over and over. I could not find any bass that stuck out unless I was just following the guitar's exact form and just copying and pasting it. This is the ultimate final nail in the coffin for The Way of the Fist. It's enjoyable, but critically vacant of any nuance or reason to recommend it beyond an average experience at best. There are pieces and parts of the album that stand out, and are lead singles or popular songs for a reason, but the entire picture fades and flickers an awful lot. Some people might have been introduced to the band based off of hearing a heavier song of theirs recommended on an online app, and they get greeted with this Skillet-esque snooze fest that are tracks like Meet the Monster. Five Finger Death Punch is the epitome of safe music, and while there are songs all over their catalog that can say as catchy, enjoyable, or fun, in critical terms, there's nothing special to talk about beyond quick points. And it's for these reasons and the reasons I've talked about before that The Way of the Fist by Five Finger Death Punch gets a 6.5 out of 10. And that's a review. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Do you want to get a commission done yourself? All you gotta do is hit me up on either Twitter or Instagram. Twitter is RayRonu. Instagram is I Just Crashed My Car, all one word. And we can talk commissions. We can do an album, or I can do a list. You see it here on this channel, realistically, I can probably do it. Like I said, that's all, so I hope you're having a good day, hope you're staying hydrated. I'll see you next time. Bye.